So today I want to talk about cravings. And we've all been there, standing in front of the pantry at 9 p.m. and you're like, why can't I just stop this? Everyone talks about how annoying they are or how hard they are to deal with, but really you can use cravings to kind of decode what your body needs and to use that to support your fat loss journey. And when you actually address the root cause of what the craving is, not only do the cravings go away, but you also improve your metabolism. Your body gets better at burning calories. And so things that help with the sugar cravings specifically, if you're someone who really struggles with this, is hello everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast, where we help you understand this new body of yours. Maybe you've started to experience some hormonal symptoms, maybe you're post-menopause, but we know now that your body is inherently different and those old fat loss strategies just really aren't cutting it anymore. So it is time to learn how to work with your body instead of against it, so you can open up those fat burning pathways, get your energy back, and feel confident again. And so today I want to talk about cravings because everyone talks about how annoying they are or how hard they are to deal with, but really you can use cravings to kind of decode what your body needs and to, use that to support your fat loss journey, which is awesome. And so we're going to cover like the top 5 different cravings that we typically see or that women tend to struggle with the most. And then how you can use that to, help you on your fat loss journey, which is really exciting. Because depending on the type of craving you have, it's telling you something different that your body needs. And it's not just about willpower. It's literally about getting your body what it needs. And when your body gets what it needs, it starts to respond, which is what we all really want, right? And we know that these cravings can get a little bit more intense as we're going through perimenopause and menopause because of, the hormonal fluctuations that we're dealing with. And we'll talk a little bit about that as well. But we're going to cover sugar cravings, salt and crunch cravings, starchy carb cravings, wine or alcohol cravings, and caffeine cravings, which I'm sure all of you are like, oh, that's the one for me. Awesome. So it's not about willpower. It's about tuning into what your body needs. And I mean, we've all been there, right? Where we're, standing in front of the pantry at 9 p.m. and you're like, why can't I just stop this? Or you're like, I need a little something, and then you have a little something, you're like, that didn't really cut it for me, right? And that means this episode is for you because we've all been there, right? And I want to normalize it because a lot of people, particularly in midlife, are going to feel some weird shame about this. We're going to feel guilty about it. And it's understanding that you don't have to blame yourself. Like there is just, once you understand the why of things, it's so much easier to get to the root cause. So you're not struggling with this because again, willpower just isn't going to cut it. And so cravings aren't weakness. It's not a lack of discipline. It's not that you don't have enough willpower. It's not a character flaw. Okay. They're just messages. So first of all, I want to tackle why these cravings tend to get louder as we're going in our midlife, as we're hitting, even late 30s, 40s, 50s. Why? And so the first thing is hormonal shifts. We see that when estrogen starts to decline, we become less insulin sensitive and more insulin resistant, which means we're going to struggle more with blood sugar spikes. We're also going to struggle with the drop that happens post-spike as well. We're going to see that we have less serotonin, which means that, serotonin is our happy hormone. So we start having more issues with our mood and also just more cravings. We're going to see it affects our hunger hormones as well. The decline in progesterone specifically results in less GABA. And like I mentioned before, our body loves when we have more progesterone and more GABA. And our family also loves when we have more progesterone and GABA because it keeps us, cool, calm, collected. Stress just rolls over off our back. We're less irritable. We're less snippy with our family. And when our progesterone goes down and our GABA goes down, we become more wired. We become more edgy. And also more snacky. We also see that cortisol tends to take over in this time of our life. And so we have more stress cravings, which comes typically in the form of sugar, salt, or wine. And this cortisol takeover happens not just from hormones declining, but under eating increases cortisol, not enough sleep, too much exercise or not enough exercise, family stress, emotional stress, relationship stress, taking care of sick parents, deadlines at work, dog pooping on the floor, being go, 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 go. And so this is where, we have to realize that sometimes the very things that we're doing to try and lose weight cause cortisol to go up and then results in those cravings of sugar, salt, wine. Sleep disruption is a really big one. One bad night of sleep is going to increase ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. For myself, I found way back just in university that was a long time ago. But I had a Fitbit and it would track my sleep. And if I got 6.5 hours or less of sleep, I ate on average 300 calories or more a day because my cravings were so much higher just because of that worse sleep. And you're also going to see your leptin goes down. And your leptin is what tells you that you're full. So now you're more hungry and you're less likely to feel full, which is obviously going to spike our cravings and make it a lot easier for us to overeat. And so if we're having multiple nights a week, or all the time, or we're struggling with insomnia or waking up between like 2 and 3 a.m. or just struggling with sleep in general, we're going to struggle with cravings because of how it affects our hormones. And we know this already becomes problematic when cortisol goes up and estrogen and progesterone go down. Our nervous system load, right? We know that once we hit 30s, 40s, 50s, there's a lot that starts to change in our lives, right? Work, we're typically at the peak of our careers. Parenting, we've either got littles at home or, we're letting them go into the real world, which is sad, but exciting and also stressful. And we don't know, it's been such a big part of our life and our role for so long that not taking care of them is hard. And then all of a sudden now our parents are sick or passing away, right? We're managing everyday stress as well. Food becomes this fastest regulator that we go to help comfort us and kind of bring that nervous system into a better place because we're just totally overrun all the time. And so an analogy that I like to use, it's almost like your body used to have these noise canceling headphones on, and cravings were just whispers that you kind of ignore. And now in perimenopause and menopause, the headphones are off and every single signal is louder. It's harder to tune out. And your body is screaming at you to pay attention. And so let's dive into the first of the 5, which is sugar cravings. So why do these happen in the first place? Well, blood sugar is typically going to dip from things like naked carbs. So having a carb on its own. So donut on its own, potato chips on its own, dessert on its own, pecan pie. I know it's just early fall, but I'm already thinking about Thanksgiving. It's in October here and in Canada, and pecan pie is my favorite. So if you're having that on an empty stomach, right? If you're having coffee on an empty stomach, if you are skipping meals, we see your blood sugar is going to spike and then it's going to drop. Okay. We know that estrogen, when that drops, so we're going to have that lower serotonin. That's our happy hormone. But we know that sugar helps boost serotonin fast. So when we're feeling kind of low and not the best mood, or just low on serotonin in general, we know that sugar is going to boost that very quickly. But you know what else has tons of serotonin? Potatoes. Put potatoes into your regular rotation in your meals. You will literally be happier and struggle with less cravings. So get your potatoes. We also know that we can have sugar cravings from magnesium deficiencies that we see most women have. We see this has an issue with detox pathways. We see this with high stress. Actually, pregnancy has the highest magnesium burn rate. Stress will tank your magnesium super quick. And so when magnesium is low, it drives you towards chocolate because there's chocolate magnesium. There's magnesium in chocolate. And so you might start having sugar cravings because your magnesium is low. And also just emotional comfort and poor sleep. We know that when we are struggling with our emotions, when we are struggling with poor sleep, our dopamine is going to go down. And dopamine is happy but motivating. And so sugar is a shortcut. It kind of lights up your system and, everyone's all excited, right? And so we've had clients who swore they were addicted to sugar, and they were so afraid to, add some carbohydrates into their diet, and they were skipping breakfast. They were having coffee first thing in the morning. They were having energy crashes and huge cravings before lunchtime would come or right after lunchtime. And all we had to do was just have breakfast that had some protein, and then have coffee after that. Crazy. Sugar cravings were gone crashes of energy, gone. And this was in a matter of weeks. Like, it was such a quick change. And so for her, it was understanding, okay, what's causing this sugar craving? And it was a combination of the stress that her body was going through, and then also the blood sugar crashes, because when you are fasting and having coffee on empty stomach, what happens is the cortisol, your stress hormone, goes up. And when your stress hormone goes up, your body goes, oh, I need energy to meet the demand of whatever's happening. Even if you're not perceiving stress, your body goes, oh, I need to, have energy to do the things. And I'm not getting it from food. Therefore, that stress hormone goes up. And what happens when cortisol goes up is it tells your body to dump sugar into your bloodstream, even though you're not eating, to help meet with that demand. So then your blood sugar goes up. And then insulin comes in to bring sugar into the cells. And if this is happening all of the time, especially when we're restricting carbs for a long time, what we see is you become insulin resistant, because there's always insulin in your body, because stress dumps sugar, insulin goes up. Stress dumps sugar, insulin goes up. And the stress will always win. And eventually that your body's so used to having that insulin coming up in your body that now it doesn't listen to it anymore. It's like, you're knocking on the door and then it just becomes like background noise. You're so used to it that it takes huge, loud banging on the door to grab your attention to open it. It's almost like when you're nagging your kids and you're like, hey, you, hey, Grayson, no, Grayson. And then you start yelling and then they capture your attention. It's like that. That's how we become insulin resistant. Just like, our kids become resistant to the nagging that we do, right? They don't respond anymore. And so things that help with the sugar cravings specifically, if you're someone who really struggles with this, is have your breakfast within 90 minutes of waking, 30 grams of protein, and add some carbohydrates at breakfast too. Just make sure you eat most of your protein first. So for me, I love like eggs and whatever protein I had left over from the day before, whether that's taco meat, some chicken fajita chicken seasoned, right? Maybe it's chicken from, taco bowls, Greek taco bowls that we did, or burrito bowls, or whatever it might be, and I toss it in there. I just make sure to eat some of my chicken and eggs first before dipping into my toast. Or maybe I'm having potatoes with my breakfast. I'll do that, right? Like if I'm having yogurt with some fruit, I'll have most of my yogurt first before dipping into my fruit. If you can have a higher fiber carb, even better. That's even better for you, right? We want to make sure you're having magnesium-rich foods or glycine supplement, because magnesium, we know in today's world, especially with how stressed out we are, we're depleted of it. This is something that we recommend pretty much every woman takes, because we're just stressed out. Even if we don't acknowledge it, our bodies are stressed. And so having magnesium-rich foods, having a supplement at nighttime, 400 milligrams, is what we love. We have some in our supplement guide. I'll share it in the show notes for you guys, that you can download our supplement guide that has all the information in there for you, with our favorite kinds too, but it has the dosages and stuff that you can grab in there too. If you are, wanting to have sweets, like I'm a donut girl. I love donuts. When we travel, donuts. We're always searching for donuts because they're my favorite. And so if I'm going to have a sweet, I'm going to have it right after a meal to help stabilize my blood sugar, or I'm just going to make sure that I always pair it with a protein or fat beforehand. So if I'm going to have even some Oreos, I'll just have some yogurt before, have some protein before, then have my Oreos. Boom, done, simple. Just always ask yourself, if you're going to have a sweet treat, how can I have some protein or veggies or fat beforehand to help stabilize my blood sugars, right? Super easy. And also support dopamine naturally. So instead of getting it from sugar and scrolling on your phone, you can get it from sunlight. So getting sunlight in your eyes in the morning, super great, will also help you with your sleep, which will also help with your cravings. Music, that actually helps a lot. Movement helps with dopamine. So going for a walk and getting a workout in, those things help a lot too. Do you ever notice how your kids sleep so much better after they've been outside all day? You're the same way. You will sleep better if you're outside more. So get that sunlight too. Just be aware that, we tend to get our dopamine from sugar. We tend to get our dopamine from social media, those quick hits of, stimulation. And so we just gotta be mindful of that. So sugar here is not the enemy. Carbs are not bad. It's a Band-Aid. Like, your body is looking for some stability for your energy and for, maybe some some nutrients or neurotransmitters that you're low in. And so sugar is just the quickest fix that it knows. So if you're struggling with that, try those things. If you're struggling with sleep too, having a bedtime snack can have a lot of help, which a lot of people are afraid of. But with a bedtime snack, I love doing popcorn with a piece of cheese. That's my go-to. And when you do that, you're going to see that the carbohydrates help bring cortisol down, which is good. And it increases melatonin, your sleepy hormone, which is awesome. It allows you to fall asleep and stay asleep. And also melatonin is an amazing antioxidant that can do wonders for inflammation, which will therefore support fat loss and open your fat burning pathways. But if you're pairing that carbohydrate with a fat or a protein, it also stabilizes your blood sugars through the night, which is amazing. Because what happens is for a lot of people, their blood sugar will drop at the night and then cortisol goes up because it goes, hey, we don't have enough energy. Our blood sugar is too low, but cortisol will wake you up. That's what wakes you up in the morning. And so if you're waking up consistently between 2 and 3 a.m., that tells us you're probably experiencing a blood sugar crash or cortisol is peaking for another reason in the evening or during the nighttime. So having a bedtime snack with carbs and protein or fat is awesome. So my go-tos are popcorn with a piece of cheese or a turkey pepperoni stick. I also love doing oatmeal with like some protein powder in it or yogurt with a little bit of granola. I'm a big like meat, cheese, and crackers kind of gal. I'll add some dill pickle in there to get that little salty crunch, which I love. There's lots of different snacks that you can do. You can do like the protein balls, like the oats with the peanut butter. Lots of our coaches do actually whole grain toast with peanut butter on top. So something that has a little bit more fiber tends to help. We typically push people away from fruit because we do find that can affect just keeping stable the blood sugars all the way through the night. It looks like something with a little bit more substance to it, like grains, can actually help a lot more, which a lot of people are like, ooh. No, it's wonderful. Give it a try. Popcorn, piece of cheese, it's low calorie, lots of fiber, lots of volume, can help you a lot. So then we have our salt and crunch cravings. So this is for people who love their potato chips, right? So why are you experiencing this? 1, adrenals under stress. When our cortisol levels are not where they're supposed to be, we will actually lose sodium. Therefore, we experience the salt craving. And this has to do with, I'm not going to get into the science of it all, but sodium goes down. We also see this from electrolyte imbalances. So if you're someone who is sweating a lot, is low carb, is overhydrating, like you drink a lot of water, your electrolytes can be off, which can then trigger that salt crunch craving as well. Or low aldosterone. So this is a stress hormone. And so we'll see there is less sodium with that. And then salty foods are going to look super irresistible to you. So what helps? Add salt to your meals. Which people are like, what? But my blood pressure. No. If you are someone who eats predominantly whole foods, like you're not having, packaged meats, like the deli meats and stuff like that. If you are not eating out a ton, like if you are doing most of your cooking at home, you should probably add salt because salt is going to be naturally lower. So just add a little sprinkle of salt to your food. It makes it taste better anyways. Like salt on soup, perfection, right? Makes it so much better. Mineral rich drinks. So like you could have some bone broth, you can have some electrolytes. Pay attention to the brand of electrolytes because sometimes the sodium is too high compared to the potassium, which can then cause some bloating. Some of them having to do with like the flavoring in them. Like for myself, I personally cannot have Element Tea, which I know is super popular, but I bloat super fast because the ratio of salt to sodium is too high for me. But also there's something in like the flavoring in them that my body just gets inflamed super quickly from. So that's something else you have to be mindful of. And watch for sugar content because some of them are packed with sugar. Crunchy veggies with hummus or guacamole for grounding. Like that can help to kind of get that crunch flavor that you're looking for. But then also stress regulation because we know high stress will trigger the cravings for salt and crunch. So this is the things like doing the deep breathing before, switching tasks or going for lunch. And people are like, that couldn't possibly help. No. We have people who have their CGMs that test their continuous glucose monitoring. We have people who have the Oura rings like myself. And doing deep breathing for 3 minutes improves blood sugar, lowers heart rate, lowers blood pressure, lowers your breathing rate, which all pulls you out of fight or flight and also stabilizes your blood sugars because it brings cortisol down. So deep breathing for 3 minutes. Like people are like, oh, I'm too busy. You worry about so many other things, but this is the thing that if you did a couple times a day could make a massive difference, and people just don't do it. And we know when cortisol is high, it blocks your fat burning pathway. And so doing some aspects of this self-care stress regulation can be the key to getting better results. This happened to me. This was one of the only things that I changed from one fat loss phase to the other, was actually spending more time on self-care. My macros were the same. My exercise was the same. My calories were the same. I got better results when I did more of the stress management stuff. And so people will be like, I'm so desperate to do anything. Are you though? Are you willing to take 3 minutes to slow your deep breathing in the day? Are you willing to take 5 minutes to put up your feet on the wall to bring that heart rate and breathing rate and blood pressure down and get blood flow back to your gut to also help you with your bloating and improve digestion? It's those little things that can actually make a big difference. Things like that are creative. So drawing, painting, crocheting, knitting, cross-stitching. Being creative also lowers your stress response, because if you are fighting a bear or running away from a bear, your body's not worried about being creative. So when you push yourself to be creative, it forces your body out of that stress state, which is phenomenal. That's what we want. So those are all great things that you can do. It doesn't have to be this big commitment of a bubble bath, a massage. Those things are great, but realistically, for a lot of us, we're not going to be able to fit in driving somewhere, hour massage, drive back. That's a big commitment. 3 minutes of deep breathing, much more doable. Then we have our carb cravings. And when I talk about carbs, I'm not talking about sugar. I'm talking about the starch. I'm talking about the bread, the pasta, the muffins. Like, we love those things, right? And the reason that we start experiencing these starchy carb cravings is, one, when estrogen declines, we have that increased insulin resistance. So it's harder to get glucose into our cells. It's harder to get the carbohydrates, the sugar into our cells to then, our body to be able to use it for energy, which means our body is like, we need more energy because our body's not good at producing it, right? And so it starts looking for it somewhere else. Hence the craving for these starchy carbs, because they provide us with lots of energy, which is not a bad thing, right? That is not a bad thing. I want to stress that a lot. It is not a bad thing. We also know that our thyroid starts to slow down when we're in a stress situation, and when we're in a calorie deficit. And also our thyroid tends to slow down as we go through perimenopause and menopause, simply because we are female. It sucks. And I know it's not fair, but now that we know that this happens, we have to be proactive against it, right? But when our thyroid starts to slow down, our metabolism gets sluggish, which means our body gets worse at burning calories, and it is worse at taking food and turning it into fuel. So we have less energy. And therefore, the starchy carbs look like the rescue fix, right? But it's important to note that carbohydrates improve thyroid function, which means our body gets better at burning calories and better at taking food and turning it into fuel. So carbs here are not a bad thing. And then relative energy deficiencies. Like, if we are someone who is working out a lot, if we're not eating enough, our body is screaming for energy, and therefore you start craving the carbohydrates, right? And so we see women who are, oh man, like they diet so hard. Like, we have one woman, I think her name was Christy, and we have her in one of our case studies. And she was doing keto. She was doing CrossFit. Like, she was working hard. She wasn't overeating, and she was really struggling. And so once we started getting her calories back up and slowly increased her carbohydrates, her cravings that she was having for toast and pasta and the breads just disappeared. It was crazy. Like, it dramatically reduced. And she was also able to lose weight, build muscle. Like, she is fit, very fit now. It's amazing. And so what helps if you're someone who struggles with this? Because a lot of the time women are like, I cannot have bread in the house. I cannot have pasta because when I do, I binge. Are you binging because of the food, or is it because you never allow yourself to have it? So then when you do, you have the equivalent of 4 servings, and then you're like, oh, but I get so bloated from carbs. If you ate a regular portion of carbs, you probably wouldn't feel that way. But instead of having, a normal serving of pasta, we're having 2 servings, right? Even when you go to a restaurant, I always package up half at least because it's a lot. It's not the average normal serving of pasta. It is significantly larger, right? So what helps us counteract these starchy carb cravings? Because this is one I find a lot of people struggle with, like a ton. So 1, eating enough calories. If you are getting enough energy consistently, you're having your meals every 4 to 5 hours apart. Maybe you're having a small little snack in between, and there's carbs at every meal. Suddenly you're not craving starchy carbs, because the reason you crave starchy carbs is because you need energy. So as soon as we fix that problem of, oh, here's enough energy coming in consistently, those cravings will go away. We want to make sure that we are choosing carbohydrates where we can that are going to slowly digest, that have more fiber. So, potatoes, quinoa, beans, whole grains, right? Veggies, fruit. These are all great for you. Make sure you're always pairing a carbohydrate, like I mentioned before, with a protein or a fat. Try and have some veggies or protein first before dipping into your carbs. So if you want the pasta, have a side salad first, right? If you want to have that wonderful panini, maybe have some veggies and dip first. Don't overcomplicate it. Ask yourself, how can I have some protein or veggies first before having this? Super simple. We just overcomplicate everything, right? And also, carbs pre and post workout are incredible for you. You will get better results from your workout because now you have energy to do the workout, more energy than before. Therefore, you can push harder in your workouts, which means you'll have a better muscle building signal, and you'll build more muscle, lose less fat, lose more fat. That's what we want, right? And then post workout, having the carbohydrates helps with recovery, so you can push harder sooner. It's going to help you with your sleep, your muscle soreness, right? And your body post workout, carbohydrates don't need insulin to enter the cells. Something happens that are called GLUT4s that come to your cell surface. They're like little doggy doors that open, and then all the sugar can just come in willy-nilly. You don't need insulin to come and knock on the door, unlock it, and let the carbohydrates in, which is amazing, especially if you're someone who struggles with insulin resistance or are concerned about that. So carbs are like logs for fuel, for a fire of your metabolism. If you cut them out completely, you're just mushing around kindling, hoping that something will spark. If you're adequately fueling that fire regularly, it stays strong. It keeps burning hot. It can burn a lot. It can do a lot of damage in terms of burning a lot of calories, right? Which is what we want. The next one is wine and alcohol cravings. Oh man, this is a tough one, and it's very normalized, which is tough because we know a lot of women reach for wine or alcohol because of stress, right? It gives you this quick little GABA boost, but it rebounds later, which means you typically wake up at 2 to 3 a.m. So if you're someone who has wine or alcohol before bed because, it's just a way to wind down and you think it helps you fall asleep better, your quality of sleep is worse, which means cravings the next day will be worse. Cortisol will be higher. Your hunger hormones will be off. You won't feel as full. You'll be more likely to overeat the next day. And it'll cause fluid retention and more inflammation, which blocks fat burning, which we don't want. And so it's just important to be aware of how that's influencing it. We also know that alcohol, especially on a empty stomach, is going to result in a blood sugar spike and drop. So we're all scared of the potato about spiking our blood sugars. Wine and alcohol will do the same thing because not only is there sugar in there, it's also going to spike a stress response, and your liver is trying to get that toxin out of your body as quickly as possible. So anything you do consume around that time gets stored as fat because your body is not concerned about that. The order of priority is get this toxin out of my body. And we also know that dopamine dips, right? At the end of the day, we can feel unrewarded, it's been a lot, right? And we're just oh man. And then that wine is this ritual, this shortcut that just brings our dopamine back up, right? And it becomes this whole culture of, oh, I deserve this. This is how I treat myself, reward myself through getting through the day. But is there a way that we can signal your body to de-stress? Is there a way that you can signal to yourself to, this is my relaxing time, this is how I'm unwinding in a healthier way? Right? And if you want to drink wine, that's fine. I'm not going to judge. Lots of my friends still drink. That's not a big deal at all. But you do need to realize that this is typically the thing that holds a lot of women back from good sleep, good hormone production, their weight gain, the weight fluctuations. Like we can see the scale fluctuate and stay elevated for 3 days post just one drink once we're in perimenopause and menopause. And so if you only have 2 drinks a week, even if you spread them out, majority of the time you're going to be seeing the scale be higher because of the fluid retention that happens afterwards. So that's just important to know. And if you're already dealing with a lot of stress and things like that, it's just going to accumulate and make things worse, right? And so we want to build a switch off ritual that isn't wine. Maybe it's sparkling water with lime. Maybe it's a herbal tea. That's something that I typically like to go to. I also find just having something hot in my hands, I'm not going to chug that as quickly as I will something that's cooler, right? It goes down a lot quicker if it's a cold drink. I'm putting on comfy clothes. I also like having something hot in my hands because, it preoccupies me. I'm less likely to, be scrolling on my phone. I'm less likely to, be snacking even, right? And so you need to figure out what is something else that you can do instead of grabbing that glass of wine. Maybe it's spending time with family, friends. Maybe it's calling someone. Maybe it's reading a book. Maybe it's the crossword puzzles or the cross stitching or, whatever it might be for you that can help you this is my decompress time. You just need a different signal. Eating enough during the day to avoid that moment at 5 p.m. where you get home and you just crash. And this is something that we see a lot in women is that, they skip breakfast and then they have a sad little salad for lunch and they're stressed and they're also underfueled. So then as soon as they get that moment to kind of get home and be like, oh, I can relax, the cravings come up because your body's like, holy crap, that was a lot. We need some energy. And so then the cravings start hitting, right? And so this is where if you eat enough earlier in the day, it can do crazy differences in your metabolism, your hormones, your energy, your blood sugar, your cravings. It's crazy. Other things that you can do too is support GABA naturally. So making sure you're getting enough magnesium, L-theanine, chamomile, glycine. Those are all really great nutrients and things that you can take to help support that as well. And so the analogy I like to use here is like that wine feels like the off switch, but it's more like hitting snooze on an alarm. And the problem always comes back louder each time, right? And then the last one is caffeine cravings. Why they happen? Well, we see, a flattened or like irregular cortisol rhythm, right? We're wired at nighttime and then dragging in the morning. And so this is part of the reason that people crave caffeine because they're tired. But caffeine doesn't give you energy. It just blocks you from feeling tired. So the energy issue still persists. And then once the caffeine wears off, now you're dealing with crazy hunger and the energy that you experience, that energy crash is just so intense. And so this is where we see that's problem number one. Problem number two is coffee on an empty stomach can actually spike your blood sugars. And then you're starting off your day immediately with a high blood sugar spike. And then all day you're just down, up, down, up, down, up, because you're always trying to counteract that drop that you keep experiencing, right? And typically we're going to give into the cravings. And we also have low dopamine and norepinephrine. And so caffeine kind of helps prop that up, but it's borrowed. It's not actually energy. It's just blocking you from feeling tired. So the root cause of, oh, I don't have energy is not being solved. You're ignoring it completely and letting it continue. And when we have low energy, what happens? Cortisol goes up, dumps sugar into our bloodstream, makes our blood sugar go up. Insulin then has to go up to bring it back down. Blood sugar crashes, cycle repeats. And so you're actually setting yourself up for failure, which is why we always tell women, eat before drinking your coffee. Always. A meal. You want to eat breakfast within 90 minutes of waking, then have your coffee. I do that every day. Never have my coffee without having my meal. You can swap for gentler options, right? Maybe you're having some matcha, maybe it's a mushroom blend, maybe it's a tea, so there's less caffeine in there. You can actually rebuild real energy by eating your food and hydrating, right? Get good sunlight, get good sleep. So Caffeine is like taking out a payday loan. You get like the avoidance of low energy, but the interest rate is brutal of cortisol, hormonal dysfunction, worse blood sugar control, cravings later in the day. Not worth it. And so cravings aren't a weakness, and you shouldn't be ashamed of them. They are messengers. And when you actually address the root cause of what the craving is, and now you know what those are, and then actually address that root cause, not only do the cravings go away, but you also improve your metabolism. Your body gets better at burning calories, better at taking food and turning it into fuel so that you actually have energy, and your body is less likely to store it as fat. We see inflammation go down. We see blood sugar control get better, which is awesome because the more insulin resistant we are, it pushes us into that storage state. We see our hormone production improves, which is amazing because we all know that hormonal symptoms make it really hard on our lives, right? It makes us more irritable, and it affects our relationships, our ability to focus. We struggle with weight gain, right? We see when we are addressing these things, we are also seeing improvements in our digestion, our liver detoxification, our thyroid function improves. We can actually build muscle. We have better performance in the gym. And so when we address the root cause of the cravings, you're not just going to lose the cravings. You're going to get back the health and vitality and ability to lose weight again. And that's the most important part. And so I hope this was helpful. Share it with anyone that you know that struggles with cravings. Share it with anyone that you think that it could help. We just want to help you. I'm going to have that supplement guide in the show notes for you as well if you guys want that. I love you so, so much, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.